Vanderhall Venice. If you've never heard of the Vanderhall, it's because Vanderhall Motorworks company was founded back in 2010 and its first model, the Laguna, went on sale in 2016. The Venice appeared in 2017 on the US market, and now the Vanderhall is available in Europe.
What exactly is this thing? At the time of filming, the European homologation process is still underway, but it is highly likely the Vanderhall will be classified as a three-wheeled motorcycle, which may be operated with a regular car driving license. Because the Vanderhall has factory-installed seatbelts, in Poland it can be driven without a helmet, but check your local regulations. Even if you're not legally required to wear a helmet, you may want to get one for longer journeys to protect yourself from debris which may spring from under other cars. And definitely get proper goggles, because on a hot day the airflow dries your eyes. I know because I drove this thing for over 400 kilometers in 30+ degrees weather. Under the bonnet, which is held in place by 8 screws, there is a turbocharged 1.4 GM-sourced engine mated to a 6-speed automatic. The engine produces 180 horsepower and 250 Nm of torque. The car accelerates from 0 to 100 km/h in less than 5 seconds, all the power goes to the front wheels, and the single wheel in the back wears 285 by 35 18-inch tire.
Vanderhall founder Steve Hall had vehicles like the Polaris Slingshot or Morgan three-wheelers in sight. It's about the feeling of uninhibited freedom like on a motorcycle, but a lot safer and with less protective gear.
After years of experimenting, Hall created a vehicle with 70-30 mass distribution, 70 being in the front. Since the engine came from GM, the simplest solution was to drive the front wheels. This in turn means you can use the engine torque safely. The Vanderhall Venice weighs just about 650 kilograms and is less than 360 centimeters long. That's like a Polski Fiat 126, but 8 times more powerful.
From the lights, the Vanderhall surprises bikers who need a second or two to stabilize the front wheel before they can open the tabs. And then there's the old school exhaust sound and the blow-off sound from the turbo. Just listen to this. And if the engine sound and exhaust sound are not your thing, then in 2020 there's going to be an electric Vanderhall as well, but that's for a different video.
There is no shortage of power and torque to overtake, but you need to take visibility into account. You're sitting in an open cockpit and you see your left wheel. Under normal circumstances, the left wheel is somewhere in front of your left foot, so you see much further without having to lean out. In the Vanderhall, you really have to have a revolving head because these retro side mirrors look cool, but you can't see much in them.
I'm 175 centimeters tall and my eyes are just below the top edge of the windscreen. A taller driver will have the edge directly in his eyesight or wind in the eyes. Fortunately, the cockpit is quite long, so you can slide down. As far as the width is concerned, you better like your passenger because there's going to be a lot of shoulder rubbing and possibly sweating on hot days.
On the plus side, on colder days the cockpit shields you very well from the wind. There is also heating and heated seats. Just be careful on rainy days. The mudguards are very effective, but without a wiper you can't see in front of you. You have to stop and wait for the rain to pass, just like on a motorcycle.
How is it to drive? The steering is electrically assisted, but you feel it only during low-speed maneuvers. And there's going to be a lot of maneuvers because this thing has a turning circle like an ocean liner. Anyway, at speed the steering feels pleasantly heavy, it's precise but not twitchy, and you're dragging your butt on the ground all the time. You see one of the wheels, so you can place the car perfectly on the road.
As I said earlier, fast takeoff is a piece of cake for the Vanderhall. However, you need to pay attention during braking. Brakes are very effective, but slight imperfections in the road or slightly turned wheels can throw the back end sideways. You can surprise yourself when trail braking.
The 6-speed auto is not Vanderhall's strongest point. It shifts into 6 too soon. By the way, the gear indicator is an analog gauge, a neat touch. As you tackle even the slightest inclines, the engine feels like it's about to stall, so you have to give it more gas to force a downshift. Or you can put this gear into manual mode, and then you can use the bump shift.
Predictably, the suspension is stiff, but it takes a really bad road surface to upset the Vanderhall and force you to take your foot off the fun pedal. That said, the Venice gives you 80% of fun, well below the speed limit. Allegedly, the top speed is above 200 km per hour, but 120 is more than enough. And better get earmuffs.
Now, instead of flying like a bat out of hell, I prefer to take it slow and enjoy the music. Even in a seemingly analog Vanderhall, you get Bluetooth audio. No phone, but I imagine the owners will get a proper microphone set like you use on a bike. Briefly about the cockpit. There's an analog speedo, rev counter, fuel gauge, gear indicator and a boost gauge. There are also several unmarked buttons. I know one of them is for Bluetooth, 2 are blank just in case if you want to connect some accessories, and 1 I have no idea what it's for.
The US manual says these are for the cruise control, but this is Euro spec model which doesn't have cruise control, but gets a lot of stuff as standard, which the US buyers would have to pay extra to get. The Americans can customize their Vanderhalls more, but I assume for the sake of simplifying and speeding up the ordering process, the Europeans will get less choice.
Having driven the Vanderhall for several hundred kilometers, I can honestly say the seats are comfortable. I'd like these seats in my MX-5. They slide back and forth, but there is no backrest adjustment. The steering wheel has rake and reach adjustment, even though the level of adjustment is limited. For example, I'd like the steering wheel to be a bit higher, because then it would make getting in and out easier. In its current position, it's easier to get out on the right side. Believe it or not, this is easier.
So, where can you get one? Vanderhall currently has 4 dealerships in Europe, 2 in the Netherlands, 1 in Austria and 1 in Poland, which was kind enough to lend me its test vehicle. Vanderhall Venice prices start at around €50,000. Besides a 2-seater roadster, there is also a single-seater speedster, which has the right side of the cockpit covered, thus creating some luggage space. The roadster has very limited space between the seats and the 35-liter fuel tank, but that's mainly to store the cover, maybe a very small weekend bag, as the divider makes it hard to store larger items. In 2020, besides the Edison EV model, there is also going to be a more hardcore Venice R and a more luxurious Vanderhall Caramel.
I realize three-wheelers are a niche affair for people who can afford having them shipped to interesting places where they can enjoy wind in their hair. This time I'm staying closer to home, but I still have 3/4 of a tank left, so I'll see you in the next one.